Got a phone call from a lady in Nashville that found our son's phone on the side of the road while he's on the road bleeding, that he was hit by a car.
Were you angry with God at all? Like,
as a person, I really always had way more preferred you admire me as a dad or as a husband than as an entrepreneur or as a CEO.
That a man plans his course, but the Lord determines his steps, and it sounds like that's a lot of what happened. I think that is such a beautiful thing to live for. Just because you start a company doesn't mean you have to give up your family.
I got the big check. It didn't suddenly make me happier. That has probably served me better than anything else.
Man, that's so inspiring. I want to be that kind of man.
Oof, wow. That's one, you want to have the perfect answer for.
Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of the Chase Goodwin Show. This has been a project that I've been working on for a long time, and I'm super excited to finally get it out to you guys. Today we're talking to John Platillero, who has been in the business world for 30 to 35 years, sold his company back in 2021, and he has so much wisdom about what it means to build a business, about how to be a faithful leader while building a business, and how to have faith in tragic circumstances. So I know I was helped a lot by our conversation, and I hope it helps you as well. I hope you guys enjoy the show. Today we are talking to, I practiced this. Today we are talking to John Platillero.
You got it.
Platillero, nice. Awesome. He is the founder of EventBooking, which is known as the first ever web-based venue management software company.
Yeah.
He sold his company back in 2021. And just in the few days that I've known John, I can already see that there's so much we have to learn from him. So tune in, grab some popcorn, and enjoy the show. John, welcome to the new podcast.
What an intro. I tell you what got me, when you said so that we can all live with passion, joy, and discipline. No, I got that. I was leaving out discipline though, because that surprised me. I'm glad you got that word in there, but I'm surprised. Not many people say that's a goal of, that's how I want to live my life. But it's actually probably more key than we realize. And I think I've been challenged in this new season of like, what are my disciplines? Am I developing any disciplines? Because I think the only part of my story that I think might be helpful is that I am kind of on the back end of a journey that had a number of ups and downs. And through a lot of that journey, discipline and passion and joy were all present. But discipline was needed at times, you know, and passion and joy is kind of a result, and passion is kind of more, I think, of energy when I think of passion. And those key ingredients, and thank goodness it was joy, but the discipline piece is something that now on the backside you kind of have to think through a little bit. What am I going to challenge myself with now that there's not I'm not chasing anything, I'm not pleasing customers, I'm not taking care of employees, so it's a little bit of a, I hope people will find it interesting that I'm just a normal guy who very fortunate to be at the front end of the internet world and was able to kind of ride that out, and then kind of on the back end now where I get to enjoy a lot of time and a lot of freedom and have enough money that it's not a preoccupation or something I have to go pursue. And so you can get a little lazy in that stage is what I'm finding, and even a little bit kind of rudderless. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes, but it might turn into a therapy session. I might be lying down on this couch, Chase, and saying, dude, I'm lost, I don't know what to do.
Well, let's see. I listened to a YouTube video that your daughter made. Because she kind of made a story, like a video of your story. And the story of your family, the story of your company. And the fact that you did build a web-based software at the front end of the internet is so amazing, that you saw that, wow, this is the next big thing, and you figured out how to use it to bring good in the world, to make an impact in the world, and So yeah, make something happen. Make events happen in a more efficient way.
Yeah, no, I love that. We got an email one time early in the life of the company, and it was from one of our clients who said, I get to go home at 5 o'clock and spend more time with my kids because I'm so efficient now at work, and because I can access, the web online at home, and I'm not having to stay at the office till late at night. So there's some benefits that just didn't exist in the old traditional model where the software was at the office and you had to be there all the time.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
and I definitely want to dive into that more. And I have some questions based on that.
Okay.
Before we hop into event booking and your story and your life, I kind of thought I would tell our audience kind of how we met a couple days ago. This is a very new friendship. We just met. As you guys know, or as some of you might know, I've been traveling North America for the past 16 weeks. I think today is day 113 on the road, and just traveling around, meeting new people, taking a break from the career I had, and really just trying to figure out what is next. And I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more, and you'll kind of feel that through some of my questions. But the other day, I was on my way to church on Sunday. I was supposed to go to church with my Nigerian buddy, black church. And before that, I wanted to get a workout in. So I went to the YMCA, and when I stepped into the YMCA, I heard worship music right off the bat. And I was like, I know the YMCA, like, I know it's like a Christian organization, but I don't usually hear worship music being played in the YMCA. And so I quickly found out by meeting somebody that on Sundays they convert the gym into a church, which is the church you attend.
Yes.
What's it called again?
It's called Mercy Commons.
Yeah, Mercy Commons.
In Fullerton, California.
Yeah, and so I decided, I was like, you know what? Like, there was something inside of me that said, don't hold to the plans you had, and go back to your car, change into some church clothes, and go to church, and then work out after. And I was like, that was weird because, I kind of had a schedule. I was supposed to meet my buddy, but I felt as though I was supposed to shift my plans. And so I decided to do that. And went to church at 9:30, started meeting people, and I got an engineering degree. John is an electrical engineer, and he spends half of the year in Knoxville, Tennessee, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and so there was all of these connections, and I'm based in Nashville when I'm not living on the road. And so there were all of these connections that people in the church started to see, and they were like, you know what? You need to meet John. You need to meet the Platillero,
plate of burritos, a lot of options.
Yeah, you need to meet John though, and so I was like, oh my goodness, okay, and we hit it off right away and had some great connections, and I also was connected with a boat captain in Santa Barbara. Was supposed to go sailing with him. He just got his captain's license, and he goes out and on his boat, and so there was just so many connections, and we kind of just he sent me his story on YouTube that his daughter had done, because I was interested. I was like, golly, like there's so many connections here, and I'd love to get to know you more. And I just was so encouraged by your story, and then my plans to go to Santa Barbara with a boat captain fell through. You had the next day free, and you wanted to go out. And so all of these things just fell into place for us to hang out more. And I don't think I don't think that is just a coincidence. Yeah. And I think the reason I say this, the reason I go the long way around to say the story, is because I want my viewers and I want us to see that when we don't hold on so tightly to our schedule, when we're not like, I demand it, like I do this and then I do this, but when we allow for what we see as inconveniences to happen in our lives, stuff like this happens where we meet and the next day we're on a sailboat hanging out, you know? And so I just love the way that we met. Yeah. And I don't even know if you knew any of that.
It's like after they introduced me, I said, well, why did you, I don't know. I mean, the connection was quick, but I didn't know if you'd been friends with the people that introduced me, but I didn't know that you just walked in the YMCA that morning. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great. So let's hop right into the questions.
Sure.
So first question I had is, can you tell me about life leading up to the founding of EventBooking? I understand that you spent some of your childhood in Spain. that right?
Yeah. I mean, dude, I've got a kind of a long story, but I'll try to keep it concise. Very interesting. My mom and my dad met in Barcelona, Spain.
Okay.
And so my mom was a single missionary working in a church in Barcelona. My dad was from Alicante, Spain, didn't speak any English. He was up in Barcelona studying at a Protestant seminary, one of the only ones in the whole country. Met my mother and they got married, had my oldest sister in Barcelona, where my dad was a pastor of one of the very first Protestant churches, because Spain in the late 50s was a Catholic country, and it was illegal to have any other religions, and Protestantism was considered a different religion. So so they kind of had this wild start, and then in the early 60s there was a Cuban refugee crisis, and there was an opportunity for my dad and mom to return to Miami, to the United States, and go to Miami. My mom's from, by the way, Knoxville, Tennessee, so that's the tie back to Tennessee. So her dad, my grandpa, was alive and well in Knoxville and always wanting us to come back at some point to get our education, etc., to make our lives in America, the kids. But Mom and Dad had, my oldest sister moved to Barcelona in the early 60s, had 5 more children. I'm number 4 out of 6.
Okay.
3 older girls, 3 younger boys.
Wow.
And grew up till I was 8 years old or so in Miami, and eventually went back to Alicante right before I turned 10. And I'd lived my formative years in Alicante, Spain, with my brothers, sisters, mom and dad.
Okay.
My dad started a small Protestant church. I went to public school. I became a little Spanish kid, and I loved it. I had a great upbringing. Still have friends to this day there. I still go back once or twice a year, at least. Go back to visit family that I have there. My parents have since passed on, but that was my beginning. When I was 18, I felt the need to come back to the States, and that video that my daughter did does a great job exploring all of that. But I knew I had to leave. There was nothing in Spain for me. I was flunking out of high school. I just was rudderless, had all this energy, and just not a very focused path.
And were all your siblings in Spain at that time?
No, one of my oldest sister, she was studying at a college up in Paris. And she's older than me. She's probably 20 at this time, 19, 20. She's 4 years older than me, I think, 4 or 5 years. And then my 2 other sisters had just come back to the States with my granddad lived with him. So I knew that path existed. My 2 older sisters had gone back to the States to study. They did it kind of against my dad's will, but they did it, and they were living in the United States and going to high school and finishing their high school career. So I saw that path, and I wanted to join the Air Force, the U.S. Air Force. I knew since I was 15 that that's what I wanted to do.
Wow.
I'd met a recruiter in Madrid, and I'd gotten the brochures, and I kept them on my bedside for years. I mean, I just knew I was going to join the Air Force. And so I did. I came back to the States. I was 19, joined the Air Force, was in Italy 2 years in Colorado. And in that time, I saved money, lived below my means. I had very specific goals that I'd have 2 years of college under my belt, that I'd have $10,000 saved. It's kind of specific goals.
Wow.
I didn't write them down. I knew those.
Especially
those
as
things.
such a young man.
And everything, and no debt. You know, those are my 3 goals. So I had a paid-off car, paid-off little motorcycle.
Where did you learn that?
You know, we grew up poor in Spain. We didn't have much money, and cash. You know, I don't know. I just. In the Air Force, I was an accountant. You know, I was an accounting technician.
Wow.
So numbers, details, managing numbers, being efficient, I think that's all part of my wiring. Some people are just kind of like that. What's the quickest route to that? You probably got a little bit of that as an engineer. There's like, what's the quickest path to that? And also there was a real sense that you can control your destiny when you're not driven by outside forces like, you know, I gotta have that. I didn't want to have anything, and if I saved money, and also the third thing is I wanted to know what I would do in college, because I didn't know that at 19. I had no idea what I would have done. So I took night courses, and I was good in math, good in calculus, and one of my professors near the end of my time in the military, I asked him. I said, "What do you think I should do in college?" And you know, he was a math professor, and he said, he looked at me and he said, electrical engineering. I didn't know what it was. I said, okay. So I applied and got accepted and ended up at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville because of my grandpa lived there. And that's where I met my wife within a year of attending school. She graduated a year before I did, but she's younger than me. But, I started college late, probably 23, 24 years old.
Okay.
So
you were in the Air Force for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, 4 years active duty and then 2 years active reserve. So while I was in college, I still on the weekend or 1 weekend a month would go and serve over the weekend.
Yeah, was your experience with that a very positive experience with the Air Force?
I mean, so foundational, so positive. I can't tell you. I mean, I just was scared to think what my life would have been had I not joined.
Oh my! Why do you think that is?
The people I met, two guys that are still to this day just kind of hardcore, like soul brothers that just really mentored me, took me in. Mentored is a weird word. I don't know what it all means, but they took me in, they accepted me. I learned from them. I watched them, a little bit older than me. And to this day, we're great friends. And I got stability. I learned a little more about discipline. I just got to settle in. The Air Force has boundaries, very defined boundaries for everything. There's a way to do this, a way to do that, a way to eat, a way to get food, a way to fold your socks. I mean, it's like crazy amount of, procedures and processes. So I think I needed that at that point in my life.
Wow. Okay.
And then going to night school and saving money and go to Italy and I mean everything about it was just perfect. That gave me a chance to mature a little bit.
That's great because it seems like you already had the disciplined mentality of wanting to save up $10,000, one of these things, and then the Air Force just like totally got you. You were already that, and it got to just help you to grow a ton.
I think so,
in those strengths that already happened as a young man. Because most 19-year-olds are not like I need to save $10,000. I need to make sure I'm not people don't. Most 19-year-olds don't think that way, and so that's already such a gift. And I think that do you think that had something to do with eventually starting a company, like building that kind of life?
100%. And this is what I tell kids. I for the last 10 or 15 years, I get invited every year to the University of Tennessee to be a guest speaker, and several other classes. One is a entrepreneurial class, and the other is a music business class. And in both classes, I tell the students, I said, had that foundation of saving, living below my means, those disciplines, those kind of ingrained, like this how I'm going to live structure, not been there, I wouldn't have been able to start the company. Because what happened, when I married my wife and we started our life, I was going to be an electrical engineer and she had a degree in computer science and she was going to be a programmer.
Okay.
And that's how we started. And we had
we're going to be nerds together.
Yeah, a couple nerds. We were both musicians, played a little music on the weekends, and that's kind of how we started. And we had a kind of an idyllic, idyllic life. It was easy. We were so in love. Still are, but it was that puppy love kind of goofy little life is so great. Because, we had no financial pressure, we had no debt. We came into the marriage, both of us now providing 2 salaries, which is crazy amount of money for us. So we just weren't used to that. So we lived way, way below our means, and we're just super happy. 2 or 3 years, and then we had our firstborn, Elisa, who was definitely created some change, but in the most positive way. But it definitely started. We started to feel like adults now and growing up.
Wow,
and we got a daughter.
Proverbs 16 says that a man plans his course, but the Lord determines his steps. And it sounds like that's a lot of what happened. You were going to be an engineer. She was going to be a programmer. You guys had this plan of what you were going to do. But then God said, actually, no, we're going to go this way.
Yeah, and it's interesting how that happened because, there was never any handwriting on the wall, but all these things, just like you coming to the YMCA and hearing music and being attracted to that. I was a musician and I thought I was pretty good, but then I started an organization called the Christian Music Connection. The idea being us local artists should meet once a month and just get to know each other and help each other out. And we should create a little directory of who we are and and let people in the community know if you have an event and you want a good musician or background music or somebody to lead praise and worship or whatever the outlet was. We wanted to be that kind of representation. So that was the first nonprofit I set up.
Okay.
Was called CMC, and we started promoting concerts.
Wow, so this was like the passion. Like
this
you were
was
an
a
engineer,
passion.
but this was the passion.
This was the day job, was engineer, and I enjoyed being an engineer. I loved the challenges. It wasn't a cubicle type job. I worked in a plant environment, and I got to put my hands on equipment, but it wasn't like, man, I can't wait to get to work tomorrow morning, but it also wasn't a dread.
Yeah.
But it was, I just did it with a joyful spirit. I had good friends there. But the weekends, the music was starting to ignite this fire.
Yeah.
And I formed a group of volunteers, and we would put on these concerts, and they got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Wow.
Next thing you know, we're bringing in Amy Grant to the Thompson Bowling Arena, selling 12,000 tickets,
Wow.
I mean, we did big shows. We had partnerships with all the media in town.
And this is all with the organization. This isn't even with the company.
CMC.
Yeah.
And I never took a dime out of CMC personally for myself. It was just truly altruistic, truly to support the cause of the local artists. We do events for them. We would have them opening up. But because of that, I learned about the music industry.
Yeah, wow.
So I was an engineer by day and making plenty of money and saving money. And by the way, in this time too, we bought a house. Once we had a kid, we thought, let's invest, let's get a house. Interest rates were over 11%.
Whoa.
And so the
people think they're high right now.
Yeah, the stingy guy, the guy that hates throwing away money.
Yeah.
I was like, we got to pay this off,
Yeah,
we got
wow.
to pay this down. So we went on this like double the payments or triple sometimes the payments, and we paid it off in 7 years.
Whoa.
A 30-year mortgage in 7 years. And
So
again,
were you still in your 20s when you paid off your home?
yeah, I got married 25, took 7 years to pay off, so 32
Wow,
probably.
32, man.
31,
that's amazing.
32, paid off the house.
That's some discipline right there.
and about that time, and again, a lot of this is to do with contentment. We just didn't need things. We didn't need the newest car. We kept our cars 10 years.
Wow.
I have a great wife who's just very content, and she didn't need, I don't know, we were just very content.
Yeah.
And so we could live well below our means and feel still like we were super rich and super, had everything we needed.
I wonder if there's something there of you were trustworthy enough. God saw you trustworthy enough to build a successful company.
That's humbling to think about. I mean, that would be a great, I hope so.
Yeah, so let's hop into event booking. So how did that turn into event booking?
So the concerts, again, I learned about the concert, and it's no different than the quote unquote secular. You have booking agents, you have artist managers, you have record labels, and everybody's on tour and they're trying to find a place to tour. So when we got to be such a brand and so well known that when any contemporary Christian music artist in the 90s thought about Knoxville, Tennessee, they knew to call John.
Wow.
CMC was a guy.
Man.
We did over 100, any artist you can think of in the 90s.
Yeah.
Everywhere from Supertones to Amy Grant to Bruce Carroll to Brian Duncan, the obscure ones, Phil Keaggy, Twyla Paris, the more well-known Sandy Patty, Stephen Curtis Chapman, Newsboys, all those 90s bands.
Yeah.
DC Talk, we got them when they were brand new. And
That's awesome. Wow.
We did 2 or 3 tours with them before they split up. But so that industry is no different. So I was getting calls from agents pitching artists and looking at dates and looking at calendars, and that's where the idea came. I was like, I lost a date of a tour that I really wanted to get a date with, and they had booked it in Chattanooga because I couldn't get in touch with an arena guy to find out if the dates that they were looking at would be available because of the basketball schedule and that. So I said, what if the calendars were online? And I could just go online and see if it's available, request a hold is kind of the verbiage they use.
Yeah.
And I could tell the agent, I got holds on the dates, and let's keep talking. That's the first step, put a hold on the date. The date's available.
Yes.
And then you move from there. So that was the genesis of event booking in probably 1994, 95.
Okay.
And so I was still an engineer, And so in 95, the idea was so strong and so refined by then. I talked to a lot of my industry contacts about it, and they all like, wow, I don't see a downside to that. Once, and they were still like, what's the internet? And they didn't have email still, some of them, and they weren't used to checking email. Yeah. So it was really early on in the mid 90s. But
because wasn't there like a push to not go towards the internet? Wasn't there
there was fear. Where's my data? Who's got my data?
Yeah. Wow.
That was a big thing. That was a big obstacle. I mean, the first 5 years we ran into that all the time. It was about trustworthiness. It was about reliability of the internet. And some of that we couldn't guarantee. It was out of our control because if their ISP, if it went down, if their internet was down in their facility, that's not our fault. We can't control that, but they can't use our product. Yeah. So my wife actually spent a year building an application that runs on a laptop that synchronizes with our web service. I mean, this is in 1998 or 99. Yeah. We called it the EventBooking Companion.
Yeah.
So that you could synchronize that thing, and if the internet went down, you could still get to your calendar, add events, and then when the internet came up, it would synchronize.
Yeah.
How ahead of the game were we on that? I mean, and she's brilliant, but it's just so I'm the idea guy, so I would think of that idea. Man, yeah. We need an offline app that synchronizes with the data. And then she's can make it happen. I couldn't make it happen.
I resonate with that so much. I have 1,000 ideas in a day, and my challenge is like I need to actually implement some of the ideas. If I implemented like 0.1% of the ideas, then I would have so much.
No, I get you. So the turning point was going back to like, how did you go from concert promotion? I started sharing the idea with people in the business and validating it. A lot of people have an idea and they just want to start building it. I say, slow down, test it. And a lot of people are like, I don't want to share the idea, somebody's going to steal it. I don't operate out of fear, and that never stopped me from like, I mean, if it's a great idea and somebody else runs with it, I just got to make it, I got to be better.
Yeah,
if I had a good idea, a good idea is not in and of itself the thing.
Yeah.
Because even that idea, by the time you're done with it, is going to be very different than what you started with anyways.
Yeah.
So it's the fact that you get ideas and that's the value,
that's amazing,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that think that way. They think like, oh, I have a great idea. I need to gatekeep this. I need to protect it because this is my chance. And it's like, whoa, what are we doing here? Now it's like, no, but do you actually want to like put out good in the world? Like go test those ideas. You're gonna have more ideas as they come. Like give them away. Like that. I feel like that really starts to show like who a person is and what he starts to build. Because as he builds that, if he's always thinking, I need to gatekeep this idea, gatekeep that idea, then he's just gonna be self-serving. He's not gonna be like.
And you're gonna be paused on that, protecting that, you know. And I mean, there's. So so I started floating the idea out, talking to people. I even had little PowerPoints with kind of mock-ups of a calendar and the process. So step one, they see the calendar, but it's camouflaged. They don't see your private events. They just see that the date's available and then, so I do the whole thing and I present that, and most people would be like, interesting. Some would love it. A few would be like, I'm not sharing my calendar online. What's online? I mean, it's just, so I got a lot of reactions, but mostly positive.
Okay.
And enough that I was like, okay, in 1995, I decided in the spring of 95 to quit my job.
Okay.
My wife was working.
That's a big moment.
That's a big moment. That was, kind of like the real, okay, we're going all in. And I was still doing concert promotion, but still not taking a dime from that.
Yeah.
That was a hobby. I didn't want to be a
Where did all that money go?
Most of the time we threw big parties for the promoters. A lot of times we lost money on the shows.
Okay.
But in the end, we also produced a whole lot of printed material, posters, but also we did that, I called it a CMC directory of a local artist. And we had 18 chapters around the country, one in Austin, one in Los Angeles. We had a chapter of artists that would meet, and they'd have a directory, and we'd produce it in Knoxville. So we had a part-time staff guy that would kind of manage all that stuff. So we had one employee part-time, and then we did spend a lot of money on equipping the chapters and building chapters and that. But at any rate, so CMC was still kind of going. But I saw EventBooking as a path to support CMC, and And so I just really, I knew it was time to do it. So had our house paid off, had money saved up in the bank. My wife was working, I think, 2 days a week and got health insurance benefits. We had 2 little kids. So it was the right time.
Yeah.
With her income, we could live because we were so debt free,
Yeah.
and we didn't need a lot.
lived on less.
And so I could take no salary from the company for years, which I did, and that's how it started. So I quit my job. Now, when I quit my job, there's a long story here about Alcoa was going through downsizing, and they were offering.
Who's Alcoa? What's
Alcoa is the name of my company.
Okay.
Aluminum Company of America.
Okay.
So it was a big company. It doesn't exist now. It's I think Arcon or something.
The engineering company.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's an aluminum company that I was an engineer working for them.
Gotcha.
In the manufacturing, they make aluminum coils and sell them to can making companies. So Alcoa was going through downsizing, and they were offering early retirement to people. Of course, I didn't qualify for that. But my boss had a great idea. He knew that I was going to leave. I needed to leave. And he was supportive of that, and because he was a believer, and he saw my passion for it. And so he went to his boss, and it was something like he was a middle manager, and he could see that his position might be eliminated, I think. So he offered to eliminate his position and make himself a plant engineer along my level.
Oh, wow.
And I would take the layoff benefit.
Wow. That's so selfless.
I know.
What the heck?
I know.
Man.
I've been meaning to talk to him about it to make sure I remember all that correctly. But the result was I got laid off. And because of that, they would, if you go back and get go back to college,
Yeah.
they pay you 75% of your salary
Oh my
for
goodness.
a year.
What?
And I think they paid for some of my college.
Wow.
But I had to go to college.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do that. I was just going to go start the company. So that was a little kink in the plan.
Okay.
But I thought, okay, why not go back and get maybe a master's in business, an MBA?
Wow.
I don't know anything about business. I'm an electrical engineer. So sure enough, I got accepted in the MBA program and did the 2-year MBA program. And it was actually perfect because the internet needed the time to get further along. It was too early. I couldn't have built anything that people would have paid for in 1995. So 2 years of perfecting the business plan, getting my MBA, getting kind of my head around business. And then in 1997, graduated. That's when I started the company, formed the LLC, and got a few investors involved, and really went all in. And my wife was 100% supportive. She was not in the business at the time. A friend of mine that I'd known since high school, who was also an electrical engineer, very passionate engineer, but also a great software engineer.
Yeah.
He had just kind of gone to that side of the engineering, the computer development, or software development. And he was fascinated by the internet and wanted the opportunity to kind of be part of the frontier.
Yeah.
And he was that kind of guy. He was like, give me the sword, give me the woods, and let me figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
He was a great problem solver, brilliant mind. And so he quit his job and jumped in with me.
Wow. Okay.
And he took a pay cut and everything to come work for me. I did raise a little money so I could pay his salary and have some foundation for the company to hire other people. And so we did that. Raised a little money. Started in the basement of our house that was paid off, and then after about a year, moved into kind of a real office for 5 years.
Yeah.
And those are lean and hard years.
That kind of leads into my next question. Can you speak to some of the significant challenges? I definitely want to ask specific questions that I have, but can you tell me a little bit about some of those challenges in the early years? How did you scale the company to what it was? It was you said it came to about 40 employees, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, how did you? So what were some of those significant challenges that then led to you being able to scale to 40 employees?
Yeah. I didn't at the time have the same mindset I have now, or the same knowledge or the same experience.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to put myself back in those years. I was scrappy. I was hustling. I cared more than anybody about the company. and everything. I was touching everything in the company. You know, I designed the screens, what they should look like, the UI, you know, we call it now, the user interface. And I was customer support. I was the only sales guy. I was the the janitor cleaning up at the end of the day, making sure we had paper supplies,
the owner and the janitor,
toilet paper in the bathroom. You know, everything. Yeah. You know, I did the accounting. I did payroll. I did everything for the company, and fear sneaks in every now and then in those early years where we were developing, putting stuff out there, and the customer said, we want more, and I have a tiny little team and I'm just squeezing everything out of them.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the early challenges had to do with both things out of our control, like the internet going down and our customers having slow internet speed. So all we could do is develop that companion product and try to mitigate that. But then there was also this idea that we just had Rob as the only developer. And so I convinced my wife I said, I need you to come work for us.
And she was your lifeline because she was the reason. She was the only reason. Yeah, wow.
She was income. So, and we did have income that first year, but it was like $56,000. I mean, it was very, very little. It paid some bills and that, but it was wasn't a whole lot. So and also, you know, we're selling. When we launched, we thought we were selling this idea of we were going to connect people. Event booking, a lot of the marketing was around building a network. We were going to connect you with your is a business to business model where the booking agent and the promoters could connect directly with the venue to check the avails and route their tours.
Yeah.
So it was all about sharing calendars. But the truth is that business model and that idea, whether or not it was good or not, it didn't matter. It didn't work.
Okay,
and the reason and within 2 months we saw that it wasn't working because the venues weren't keeping their calendar updated. So we had 300, there's only 420 arenas in the United States, more or less. There's probably more now, but it's not millions, you know, it's hundreds of arenas, big 10,000 plus seat arenas.
Yeah, and these were the events through your booking company. You were going there. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So these.
So you had the biggest of the biggest.
We had that's what we aimed for. We aimed for we're going to go top tier. We're not going to try to serve the whole market, going down to the club level. We're going to work at the top tier level. They've got money, they've got knowledge, they've got cachet, and then we can work our way down. It was a kind of a top down approach, which is smart, you know. I think. But those folks, we'd have all kind of stuff that we'd baked into the software, knowing this is going to be our big challenge. People aren't used to keeping this calendar updated because they have some system they're using now. So the biggest challenge is the status quo.
Yeah.
People are used to keeping their calendar on a piece of paper or in a book, and they're used to keeping that very private. Yeah. If I've got Bruce Springsteen interested in coming to Knoxville, I don't want my competition to know that, and they woo him away to Chattanooga or to some other city because he can't go to every city. Yeah. So there's real competition that way amongst the venues and the cities, the markets, and within the promoters too. So the real obstacle was status quo, the internet being slow, and our own capacity to develop the software that they were asking for. And I don't know what to tell you other than that we just kept grinding,
just kept getting
yeses. Take the next step. Slow yeses. One little breakthrough we had, again, just kind of with the ear to the ground, we noticed that people were having a hard time building websites. So the Staples Center was opening in LA, and we offered to build their website. We knew the people there because they'd already talked to us about the software. Yeah. And so we built the first website for the Staples Center, the Kodak Theater, the University of Illinois Assembly Hall. Websites became like this like bonus little idea that we were good at developing web-based software. And what we did was we baked in the content management system. So all the data that the website was displaying came from your event booking software. Wow. It's kind of brilliant. So we added a new tab called My Website or something like that. You'd click it and it'd have every page of yours. You'd click it and it had a WYSIWYG editor, which back then was a big deal that we had what you see is what you get. Wow, somebody that doesn't know anything about HTML can highlight a phrase and click B for bold and save, and now it's bold on their website. Woohoo! I mean, that was revolutionary, man. We thought, and we were like, dude, I can update my own website. The venues would say that. They were so amazed. So that took off. And this is something that I if there's any regrets that I had or any kind of, not mistakes, but missed opportunity, I should have seen websites as a separate company and built a separate team. If I was more Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, where I had, great at delegating and great at kind of forcing do this and building that kind of aggressive team, maybe I would have been successful. But I didn't, and eventually websites, there was competition, came up 10 years later, but that funded us. I mean, the second year in business, we made way more money selling websites than we did selling subscriptions to the software.
Wow.
Way more.
Okay.
Because we had failed at the network, at the idea. So we pivoted right away within 2 or 3 months of launching. I told everybody at work, I said, we're taking down all the, and there's only 3 or 4 of us, but we're gonna change the website. It's not about building a network. It's not about agents and promoters being part of this thing. We're gonna turn off. We're gonna say, sorry, it didn't work. And we're gonna go back to the venues and we're gonna build a product that is so valuable to them that they stop using whatever they're using. We're gonna figure out what they're using today, and we're gonna make something better.
Okay.
And because it's web-based, they're gonna love it. Because they're going to be able to get it on their Palm Pilot back then, And we built the first Palm Pilot, not the first app, but we built an app that synchronized fully, was live with their event booking calendar.
Okay, and a Palm Pilot, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never even heard of that.
It's like one of the first hardware devices, pre-phone.
Pre-phone, okay.
Yeah, they had MP3 players before phones, which were just devices that played your audio, So I don't think it streamed, but they played MP3s. But Palm Trio had a little antenna. It was a device. It had a screen on it.
Yeah.
And it basically connected to the internet.
Yeah.
And you could, there's some apps and, you could get around whatever people developed in those apps.
Yeah, wow.
You had access to.
Okay. Yeah. So kind of shifting more towards like you're in the business. You're trying to scale the business. You get up to 40 people in the company.
That takes a long time, by the way.
Totally.
I don't get there till the last few years. So.
Totally. So, but how did you balance like spending time with your family and being, because you say you have a good marriage today and it's lasted, how many years have you been married?
36 years.
36 years. Yeah. You don't just get 36 years married by drifting, So how did you find the time and space and emotional energy to invest in your marriage, invest in your children, invest in your family as you're trying to build this company?
Yeah, to me, it came real natural that was the priority, family. I wasn't, I could be faulted for, during the time, I was super slow. As an internet company, we were growing 20% a year. If you look at our revenues, I kept a spreadsheet, like what was our gross revenue every year? Yeah. And it was always like at 20%. It never did like hockey stick. And for an internet company, that's terrible. They want you to take off or die, And we were just like building a little company. And so I was okay with that. And I'm a high energy guy with not a lot of need for sleep. And so I'd have breakfast every morning with the kids, drive them to school. We eventually bought a double wide mobile home right by the school they went to. So we could drive them to school, then be at work. And then I could leave work at 3 o'clock and go coach middle school soccer. They go back to work, then have dinner with the kids, put them to bed, work a little more, get up at 4 a.m, work a little more, have breakfast, take the kids. We never didn't have a summer vacation where we didn't have I love experiences and vacations and traveling and teaching my kids the world. We've been to Spain a number of times. They've been to Spain 10 plus, I don't know, lots of times. Yeah. And learned Spanish and I don't know, it just seemed normal that was the priority, and I allowed that to my employees too. What family is way more important, and in some ways it jived, it aligned with what we were trying to provide. We wanted to build software that allowed people to have more time to go home with their families.
Yeah, wow.
It's about building efficiencies.
Yeah.
And that was the feedback we were getting, which was so satisfying.
Yeah, you asked me this question yesterday, and I want to ask you as well. Like, I love the energy you have is amazing. That the passion at which you do life, and you know, like I was just thinking, like, for the viewer, them thinking about that schedule. That's like I can tell there's a lot of people watching that's just like stressful to them. That's like, oh my goodness, there's so many different things going on. So you have to have a high capacity in order to do that. So what was I saying?
Some of it is wiring, I think. You're right.
Yeah.
And it's my DNA. My wife's not like that. She needs 9 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And she's more introverted, so she recharges by being alone. And our marriage, I mean, we're so complementary, especially when it came to the company.
Yeah.
I was the outgoing guy. She was behind the scenes bricklayer, you know, just building quietly.
Yeah.
And she probably, looking back, she in college, she was straight A's in computer science. She was the top graduate of her class.
Yeah.
And I say that not only to brag on her, and I do love her a bunch, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to brag on her, but it shows her level of discipline. She would say, I'm not a genius, I just work hard. She has an incredible work ethic and has her own incredible story of growing up in a family band that used to travel around the Southeast and made a living, and she got part of the income and had to buy her own clothes at a young age and split the food and do all these things. So she had to grow up early, and I'm afraid that she put that same kind of load on her shoulders in the company. She felt always responsible to pay back the investors, to do right by them, to do right by the customers. And she probably hid that a little more than I realized, the burden she was carrying. We still, you know, we dated often, but we did talk a lot about the company or our kids.
Like dated in marriage, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dated. Yeah,
You kept that as a priority.
We try to do that, but still, even on dates, I mean, our challenge was we're talking about the business or we're talking about the kids.
Okay.
It was so hard not to.
Yeah.
And we kind of didn't do anything together for fun that wasn't around the business, and the business was fun, especially as we got profitable, and there's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the kids were a lot of fun.
You're building it together too.
Yeah. And again, I think I had more joy in that. She was just like, I'm not, until we pay back the investors, until the customer, until we have the final thing, my head's down.
Yeah.
She's just that kind of person.
Yeah. So like underneath that though, like what is the drive? What is the motivation? What is the why for scaling a company, for investing into your children, for investing into your family, making that a priority? Like, what is the underlying why of everything that you're doing that's produced this amazing life that you've built?
Yeah. I'm trying, I mean, my mind's going all kind of places when you ask that question. What is the underlying why?
Yeah.
I mean, part of me wants to just say, I don't know, just why,
Yeah.
But I think
Does it have anything to do with your faith? Because I do know you're a Christian.
Yeah.
Where does God come into this? Is that a significant reason?
I was going to say love.
Yeah.
The word that, as you were talking to me, what's the why? And love, I want to use it in a sense. I mean, my mom was the kind of like the epitome of love. She was this person who never thought ill of anyone else. She was very giving. She didn't hold on to anything. And the example that she set and the value I saw from that of loving one another. And those are the biblical principles. That's what Jesus talked about. When he boils it all down, it's love God, meaning you're not God, and love others as you love yourself. And everything about the company felt like when I was giving my energy, I was loving my family by providing, by building a future that could provide for them, having this flexibility with my time. I loved being an entrepreneur. You know, I can pick whatever 80 hours a week I want to work. You know? That's a joke, but there's some truth to it. But we loved our customers. I fell in love with the industry and how can we serve the industry. And there was a real ethos in our company, and the people we hired, they were wired that way too. They were in service to each other and to our customers, and it was natural, and it's the kind of people I looked for. So I think that may be kind of an important why for all of us to consider. Serving, it's better to give than to receive, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I've heard it said that when you start your own company, you give up the 40 hours a week, and now you're on the clock 24/7.
Yeah.
And you decide to just, like, there's no more safety net. You know, you're taking away the safety net, and you're saying, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna build this from the ground up, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna figure it out together.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the buy-in from your wife was a significant thing?
Yeah, I took it for granted. You know, she never complained. She never said, let's not do this. Are we sure about this? I mean, incredible. It's just kind of this quiet faith. She's just kind of that more serene, you know. I'm the but she's, you meet her, and she's in some ways a lot more outgoing now. But yeah, she was just like she's a doer. She doesn't ask for a lot. It's not about her ever. Her whole ethos, her why, she would always say, her why is, well done, good and faithful servant. You know, she worked as unto the Lord.
Can you unpack what that means for those who don't know what that means?
So when you decide to follow Christ, what you're saying is, it's not about me. It's about your will in my life. You acknowledge that Christ, God, is your creator, and we worship him through the way we live.
Yeah.
And the way he asks us to live is by loving one another.
Yeah.
Now, religion has gotten in the way of and expanded and created all these divisive kind of areas that kind of take us away sometimes from the core. But when I focus my heart and my mind on, am I loving, am I caring about someone truly, I want them to win, I want them to have a good life, then it clarifies my own heart, I think. So.
Yeah, there's a passage in the Bible, for those who don't know, where it's the end times, and people are going to Jesus in judgment, and he is separating the sheep from the goats, and he says, for those people who served, those people who loved, those people who are covered by the grace of Jesus, he says, well done, good and faithful servant.
Yeah.
And living in such a way where we are living for that day when we stand before God, and he says to us, well done, good and faithful servant. Like that, I think that is such a beautiful thing to live for.
Yeah.
Wanting to hear from the God of the universe, well done. You did it, and you did it well. Well done, good and faithful servant.
Yeah. That's a great perspective. Yeah. That's our perspective. And I think the whole idea is that perfect love, we can't. There is, I hate to use the word sin because it's got such a weird, but there is evil in all of us. There's selfishness, there's pride, there's ego. And
people who say there's not are lying to themselves, because we see the darkness in our hearts.
Yeah, and it gets called out when you're pressed. You know, if you're not pressed, your life's rosy cozy, then, but as you get pressed, that'll come out. And so all we're saying is, God, you created me. You want me to have perfect love. I can't, but you forgave me. And by your blood, I am healed of my sin. And I commit my life and my heart to serve you, acknowledging your grace in my life. So that's, to me, that's the gospel. Now, I never sat my employees down and preached, talked to them like, you've got to be a Christian to work here. But we lived it, and I don't. Again, it's how am I loving my neighbor as myself? We hired people based on experience, their attitude, their willingness to serve. You know, did they fit culturally? And we met some great people, along the way.
Yeah. So, in the process of doing what you did, building the life you did, like difficulty comes. We talked about some of the challenges of the company. There was a time where tragedy struck your home, and there was a car crash that happened with your son, right?
Yeah.
And can you speak to that a little bit, and how that challenged your faith, how that how that just challenged your family unit. Can you tell that story for us?
Yeah, so as the life of the company was, the first 5 to 7 years was a struggle. We made it through grit and determination and just kept building websites and finding anything we could to make revenue to keep growing the company. Then we entered a second season in the company where we became profitable and we started building a second generation of our product. And this leads up to the crash.
Yeah, okay.
And it's important to know because this is again how God just brought the right people at the right time in the life of the company. And during this second season, me and Rob, my right-hand guy, the main developer, the first employee that came in that built the software, he and I was just putting a lot of pressure on him and we just didn't know how to communicate. We brought in an outside guy who was fantastic at coaching us and we were starting to get along a lot better. We were building a new product. This is where I started learning to become a better kind of boss, where I cared about what people, not so focused on did you do 8 hours, but are we listening to customers well, and what are we measuring here?
Yeah.
And we started growing in that second season, built a new product, launched it. It was very successful, started growing, and then I brought in a couple people in the end of that second season. Now we're in about 2012, is when the third season starts.
Yeah.
And this is our third generation of our product. And this is when I brought in a guy from Australia to become the president of the company. His name was Steve, had a great reputation in the industry. Yeah. We were gonna be big boys now.
Yeah.
I was determined we're gonna take on, we're going to expand from live event venues into convention centers, hospitality industry, which was way bigger market. And there was a big king in that market, a big software king that dominated, and we were going to go after them. And so I brought in a guy that knew all about them. He used to work for them, and he no longer did, and he loved what we were doing. He loved being web-based. We were still the only web-based. Even the other big company was still installed-based.
Okay.
And so I brought in Steve, and then I brought in another guy named James. James is a people guy. He's an idea guy. He knows the music industry as well as I do because he was in a band for 10 years, the leader of a band, successful band that toured and everything. So he was wanting to get off the road. He's from Knoxville. So he came in as a chief operating officer, and Steve came in as president. Well, we worked 2 years with Steve remotely before he became an employee, working with my development team to build the kind of software, the new third generation that could compete with Ungerbach. So the company was all in build mode.
Yeah.
We had like a group of the company that was in sustain, maintain, continue to sell the second generation product. Okay. But then it's almost like there was a wall and there was this group, this team of developers that were building the new third generation. And with Steve, and we're going to build this way more features and everything. And so this was really a lot of good energy in the company. We were doing Friday lunches every Friday. We'd bring in a chef. He'd make great food. We'd talk. Yeah. The teams would talk.
This is everybody in the
guys here, second generation. We're talking to the third generation people saying, make sure it does this, make sure it does that. We don't want to lose this feature. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good energy. And while that's happening, I'm becoming more of a distributor of idea, more of I'm a kind of higher level strategic thinker. Okay. I wasn't the main sales guy. Steve was leading sales. James was hiring people. Yeah. We had a development team that had their own people that were UX designers. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't leading anything. And it was right about that time that we got a phone call from a lady in Nashville that found our son's phone on the side of the road while he's on the road bleeding, that he was hit by a car. Wow. He had moved to Nashville about 3 weeks before this, didn't know anybody in Nashville, got an apartment close to a school that he wanted to go to called Blackbird Academy, and it was a music production school. It was 6 months long, every day that's all you're studying. Wow. He already got his 4-year college degree at UT, same degree I got, electrical engineering, but he knew he didn't want to be an electrical engineer, but he got the degree. And he wanted to do music.
Theme.
There's a theme here in this family. Yeah, and I'm sensing it with you.
Maybe so.
Mr. Civil Engineer. But that engineering is going to come in handy.
Civil engineering podcaster.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason you got the engineering degree. It'll serve you well.
Yes.
But David, devastating news They told us, we got to the hospital, they said he'd never walk again. It's a severed spinal cord. They were wrong about that, but it was severely damaged.
Yeah.
And so he had an operation the next day. They put his spine back together, relieved pressure off the spine. And he moved to Atlanta 3 weeks later to be in full-time rehab for almost a year, 8 months. Okay. And we moved down with him for 4 months. Yeah. So my wife and I just left the company for 4 months.
Wow.
And God provided James and Steve and a team that was so cohesive, and everything was running so well that just remotely I could have my weekly meetings that I had with Steve, James, and our third generation developer guy, and Rob. We'd still meet on the phone, and they would give me an update. They would send me a written report once a week with all the kind of key numbers and where things were going. So I had my hand on things, but I wasn't driving anything.
Yeah.
And it was so freeing and such an act of service and goodwill from my team. And David so desperately needed us. He was so depressed. Here's a kid who's 24 years old, captain of his high school soccer team, won state championships, was an avid wakeboarder, avid runner, do a sub 5 minute mile. I mean, so athletic, so loved hiking, all these things, and it's all taken away in a moment. And this idea that he was going to go to Nashville and build this new career, gone. They didn't have wheelchair ramps at this place and studios. And when's the last time I saw somebody roll out and play guitar in concert? And so he had all these negative thoughts in his mind that there are no limitations in the world of disability, but in his mind at the time he thought he lost everything. And so just to be there with him in that moment, those months of suffering, and this is where all that investment in growing the company and getting it to that point, if that would have happened 10 years prior, wasn't set up to, I don't know the company might have folded, who knows. But
how did that affect your family? How did that, or not just your family, but how did that affect your faith? Were you angry with God at all?
To be brutally honest, it's sad. I wish I could say that, I just fervently prayed and trusted and felt peace. And to be brutally honest, I believe I was indifferent. Other people prayed around us. We closed our eyes, we bowed our heads, we echoed we wanted to pray. But I was so numb and so next day, how are we gonna, just seeing your son so in such despair, and you can't just say it's gonna be all right. You just can't. You just go with him. When they try to lift him and put him on it, what can I do to help? You transfer him. You do whatever you can. But I was numb. My wife, every night going to bed at night, she'd just quietly sobbing, for a year. She'd go to sleep sobbing. And David, for the first 3 or 4 months, I think, he was crying every night. I didn't have that reaction. I'm sure I wept. I remember in the emergency room that night in the ICU. My friends were around me and praying. And I was just so inconsolable at times. You go in these waves, and then you're just kind of numb, and you just have no energy, and then you go in these waves. So it was the unknown was so hard. But through it all, God's faithfulness, the redemption. We saw a toe move within 2 months. Oh, wow. And that shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have happened. So the toe moved. And David became the most determined person I've ever met in my life to keep it moving. And those people at rehab in Atlanta, at the Shepherd Center, they are the best cheerleaders, coaches, in saying, okay, if it moves, put a weight on it. That's what they would say. So they'd put a little something to give it resistance and move it more. Next thing you know, the foot's kind of moving. And next thing you know, this is moving. And 4 months go by, and every week or two something else would move, and all of a sudden you get movement in his right leg even more. And then he still is probably, I think, is at 20% what you and I have in terms of the connections.
And how long ago was this?
This was 2016, so it's been almost 10 years, 9 years now. So it's easier to talk about, of course, but some of the 80% of the connections, I'm making up the number, but a lot of them didn't reconnect. So it's kind of like having a bunch of guys rowing a boat, and then 80% of them get wiped out. You only have 20% left. You make them as strong as you can. And so that's what David did, just strengthened the little bit of muscles that we're firing to the point that he can walk today. Wow. It's an awkward walk, but it's David's walk. He's got his little swagger, and he can walk. And it's a big deal. It's a nice win. He lived in a wheelchair for a year full time. He learned how to drive a car with hand controls and take the wheelchair apart, and fully independent in a wheelchair. Lived on his own in a wheelchair. But it's a real true blessing that he is able to recover enough to be able to walk.
That really has to form like a really strong family bond. Did you guys already have that strong family bond? Did this strengthen it even more?
Yeah.
How did that?
I mean, we always were close. I think the friction David and I had is, in his college, when he didn't become an engineer, I accepted that. There was no friction there. I wanted him to do what he wanted to do, and I knew he was good at it, so he should pursue that. But I am still that driver type A personality, and David has got enough of my wife's kind of balanced, temperate, I don't need to drive through a wall every time I need to accomplish something kind of mentality. It's okay to just kind of casually coast up to the wall, take a look, and do I really want to knock this wall down? I've already knocked it down, then realized wrong wall. Okay, let's back. So there was some of that kind of friction, and I'm always, having an opinion. David came up with a saying in those years of rehab that, let's see, what was it? An unsolicited advice always comes across as criticism, and I never forget him telling me that.
Can you repeat that one more time? Unsolicited advice.
Advice always comes across as criticism.
Wow.
To him, at least, it did. And so I tried to quit giving it, because I always have an opinion. Well, have you tried that? So, anyways, we've got a beautiful relationship, and always had, but it's just gotten even better as adults. And just watching him, I've learned so much from him, just how to handle life when tough things happen. And he still lives with it's a permanent disability. He still has a lot of personal physical problems, not just in the limitations of walking, but bowel and bladder control is different than you and I. Those things don't work. But happy to say he and his wife have 2 children, 1 child that's born, 2-year-old, and then 1 in Mama's tummy.
That's amazing.
So as of today,
so cool. We're actually at his house right now.
I got
to meet him at church as well, and got to talk to him a little bit. They're awesome. What's their son? Leo.
David. Leo. You hung out with Leo. a little
Leo's
bit.
the son. He's 2. He was so fun. So this is his space. I was thankful that he let us use his space. So you sold the company in 2021.
Yep.
And you built it up for how many years? So 1995.
I guess 20. Yeah. If you started in 95 and sold it in 2020, what did that make it? 25 years?
25 years. Yeah. Wow. 2 engineers.
That's a good number to remember.
2 engineers trying to figure that out. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And so after so many years of building this up, I mean, it's you built it from the ground up.
Yeah.
Like, what is it like passing that off to somebody else after spending so much time, investing so much into this? What do you do now? And we'll get into kind of what today is like, but what is that emotion like of giving something, or not? You didn't give it. Definitely didn't give it. But like, what's it like passing it off? Like, what does that do to you? How'd you get there?
I think 25 years, several factors come into play. I had been approached about 7 years before this by a private equity firm with a similar offer of buying my company and buying my competitor and merging us, which is what the new offer was in 2020 as well. It was a strategic offer. It was like, hey, this makes sense to us from the outside. Does it make sense to you? Because they're still dominant in the hospitality meetings world. We're dominant in the live entertainment world. merge them together. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But at the time, we were building our third generation when the first company came. So I had already said no to one approach, and now I'm in my late 50s. COVID had happened, and I think it's key. If COVID hadn't happened, there was so much. David had recovered beautifully, was living a great life out in California. We were in Knoxville. The company was growing like crazy, profitable. Everybody's happy that everything was moving in the right direction. And then COVID hits.
Yeah.
It affects our clients. It affects our financials. It affects the world.
Yeah.
But most importantly to me, the thing I loved about the company was going into work and seeing my people. And now we're working remote.
Yeah.
And that, for an extrovert guy, is so hard.
Yeah,
and so
totally understand that.
that's when they approach. So I'm 8 months into not going into the office. So I'd been deflated.
Yeah.
I'd already been, and I knew the world wouldn't come back the same. We as a company had already been working 2 days a week remote before COVID, which was really cool.
Yeah.
We started that year, January of 2020. We had, at our company annual retreat, I always let the team decide, hey, what new ideas do you have to make it even greater, funner to work here or better? And everybody decided, let's work remote a little bit. I think that'd be cool. I was like, great. As long as each team is off on the same days, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
I don't want half the team in the office, half remote, and then they miss each
yes.
other. So Tuesday and Thursdays, the support team is working remote. Monday and Wednesdays, some other sales team. Didn't matter to me, and that set us up to perfectly transition. COVID hit, and we were all already had our workspace. But COVID was, if it weren't for COVID, I don't know that I would have sold. But COVID definitely prepared me to okay, this is not going to come back the same. This is a good offer, and the vision to connect these two companies, I think it will make for a better for the industry, better for my team. Now, this other company had been around a lot longer. They had international offices. We had international clients, but didn't have a presence there. So we were having people in the U.S. provide support in the middle of the night to overseas clients, and it was getting harder and harder. So it made a lot of sense, and I was prepared. And the other thing I think I would say is my identity wasn't in the company. As a person, I really always had way more preferred you admire me as a dad or as a husband than as an entrepreneur or as a CEO or a company owner. I would much rather get that accolade than, man, you're a brilliant CEO or entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think I saw that in you from the moment I met you, as you would talk. And I think that's part of the reason I was like, man, I really want to talk more to him, because I know what it's like. I lived where significant people in my life choose work over relationship. And I saw the damage that does to a family. And so when I saw you and saw the way you treated your wife, saw the way you talked about your son and your company, I saw a lot of that in you. And I think that's admirable. And I want other people who are trying to build out something trying to build something beautiful, to see that just because you start a company doesn't mean you have to give up your family. Doesn't mean you have to
you might grow slower, you might not make gazillion dollars right off the bat. Live below your means, you'll be happy. I'm not happier now. I got the big check. It didn't suddenly make me happier at all. I don't even remember. It was almost like more of a sobering, and wow. And my first, as soon as I knew that this was going to happen, the deals was kind of going down, just the legalities were needing to happen, but it was going to happen. I started just asking all my friends, who do you know that has sold a business? I want to talk to them. Surround yourself with people and see their perspective years later. What do they wish they would have known about it?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So starting a business today is obviously different from starting a business when the website, when the computer had just come out, And so how do you think starting a business today has changed 25 years later, 30 years later? How have you seen that? If somebody is wanting to start a business, what are some significant things that you say they're like, oh, I think this has shifted and this would no longer work. I think this would be what would work.
I don't know that I'm going to have a great answer for that because it has shifted so much. First thing that comes to mind is speed of implementation. It seems like, you just have to just go now to do something. And of course, we built software as a solution. We built, and so it's very different than somebody who's in the entertainment field. For example, my son, who's a music producer and writes songs and produces music. I mean, what he has to do to put a song out in some ways is so much simpler than it was 30 years ago when you had to get a label to get distribution to people to hear you or to be on the radio. Now he can be on Spotify and anybody in the world, if they know him, can find him. Now, on the other hand, the barriers to entry are nothing, so very low. So all of a sudden he's one of a billion people trying to get their music heard. So it's a totally different kind of challenge. In the old days, he would have to try to get on a label, and in the new thing, he's got to try to make his voice somehow elevate above everybody else's. So this is a totally different challenge. But I'm trying to think, I wish there were some principles that I could think of that don't change, because I think that would be more valuable than like, here's what to do today, because it depends on what are you trying to do. Launch a podcast? I always say, look at somebody who's doing it well. First of all, whatever you're trying to do, is somebody else is doing it and doing it well. What are they doing that is so well? Can you do that? And what can you do to differentiate? Differentiation is key. I mean, I knew that I'd be the only web-based solution out there. Nobody else was interested in it or pursuing it, and I was early on, so that was a big differentiator. So I'd say look for where you can differentiate yourself, look at what people are already doing. And also just, if you're in the in-between, whatever you're doing to make a living, washing dishwasher at a restaurant, or whatever you're doing to earn income, be the best at it that is in that, and have the best attitude than anybody else. That has probably served me better than anything else. When I was in the Air Force, I wanted to be the best accounting technician they had. I wanted to be the best. I had two part-time jobs on my second assignment in Colorado because I was saving up money to go to college, and I was so focused on school. In night school, I was taking night classes. I was a dishwasher on the weekends at the Non-Commissioned Officers Club. And I was a part-time janitor, kind of office manager for the education center on base. And so I wanted to be the best at both of those things. I wanted to be the best dishwasher that I ever had. And it sets you up. You're going to get opportunities. I don't know. It's just that mindset. I think you need to have that. You don't need to have a results mindset where I want to make $10,000 a month next week or something like that. That's a results oriented. I was more like attitude oriented.
That's really good. That's really good. I love the idea of, if you want to have a different destiny, if you want to have a different destination, then sometimes you're going to have to be willing to change. And so maybe I make a 1% shift, maybe I make a 5% shift. That 1% shift over the course of 2 months isn't much of a difference, but that 1%, 2% shift over 10 years, that's a completely different destination.
It'd be in Miami instead of New York City.
Totally. And so I think it is so important to understand that those things don't happen over time. A different destination doesn't happen immediately. You need to give it time. You need to show up every single day, and that choice to show up every single day. In a decade, you're going to be a completely different person. You're not going to be the same individual that you are today. And so with a company, like for those people who want to be entrepreneurs, those people who want to start a business, what are and we've spoken to them a little bit, what are some of the major qualities that you're like, you've got to have these qualities or else you're not going to survive? And the word that comes to mind when I think about what it means to have a business, what it means to build anything beautiful, is the word sacrifice. You have to be willing to sacrifice. Can you speak to that? Any of that? I sacrifice. It's almost like a great recipe. You can't pick one thing and say this is it that makes this so good, because if you're missing some of the other ones, it's not going to be the same. So
sacrifice is a powerful word. It's a powerful ingredient. I also think of the word risk, So how do you prepare yourself for risk and sacrifice? And the way we prepared ourselves without even kind of sitting down and saying, okay, we want to start a company, so let's see, we have sacrifice and risk, so we're going to do these things.
Yeah.
We were just doing those things, and those things are living below our means, saving for a rainy day. We didn't know we were going to start a company, but we always saved every month money. And we didn't change our lifestyle. We were generous people. We were involved in our community, involved in our church. We were living life, what we could fully, and so I think sacrifice and risk are doable when you've laid the foundation. You've got that foundation of contentment, living below my means, sustaining myself. I mean, I've got to have a realistic plan here. So if I don't have any money and it takes money to start this, I got to raise money. So how do I raise money? Well, I got an MBA. That helped, and that introduced me to these people, and this professor introduced me to that. So everything builds on itself. But to prepare yourself, I think your personal life has got to be in order, and then you've got to get the stars out of your eyes. I see so many people that just think the idea is so good that alone is going to get them there. And you've got to be willing to hear other people's opinions about your ideas and not be so defensive about it that you're not open-minded to maybe this isn't the best idea.
Like
but
you have to humble yourself.
Yeah, you have to humble I think humility along the way, listening to people, finding mentors in your life, having the foundation, whether you're funding it yourself, but having to be realistic with that, and then giving it your all when you do have that time. So if I was starting a podcast company, a podcast channel or something, I would do what you're doing. Get good equipment. You don't have to spend the best, but get good quality equipment. Find people that you really resonate with so that it's organically true and authentic. And then do it to the best of your ability, put it out there, and then keep doing it, keep doing it.
Keep showing up.
Keep showing up.
I think there's a temptation for a lot of people to quit. And, I've done this for X amount of days and I'm not seeing the results, so I'm going to quit. And I think there's something to be said. There's something honorable. Keep showing up every single day. And again, over the long haul, you might get there. But that temptation to quit for something, when you're truly trying to do something beautiful, you have the passion, you have the discipline, but you're not seeing those results. You talked about results, like it can be discouraging. And I think that's where, we talked about why a little bit, or like the why of what you guys are doing, but of your family, of your personal life. And I think building that why over time helps you to say, no, I know what I'm building towards. And, I might be wanting the result to be financially free, or I might be wanting these results, but either way, I know that what I'm building is a beautiful life. And that's where the good life is. The good life is not, selling the company for however much money. The good life.
My happiness level didn't change one iota. It really didn't.
Wow.
It did nothing.
Can you speak to that a little bit more? Because I think a lot of people think like when the money comes in, that's when the good life is.
Honestly, it's just a number on a screen. I still manage my money. I got a little budget, and I get a little drip from the money that we have. We have people that manage it for us, so I don't have to think about it. Don't worry about it. And we just get kind of like I call it my allowance. Hey, Daddy, can I get a little money? And we live on this budget, and and it's great. But it's no different than before. We've been able to do some great things for other people, for ourselves too. We were able to buy a place in California to live here half the year, or a little bit less than that, but to be around our son who lives out here now. So it does provide some really nice blessings in this season of our life. But if that's your only goal, man, if it's just money, you're missing something.
When you showed up,
you're going to be disappointed. That's what I'm trying to say.
Wow. You showed up a few minutes after me to the house, and you've been spending the afternoon with your grandson. And I think to myself, like, would you take away that for more money? Like, no way.
No way.
Right? Because the good life is not found in the 7-figure, the 8-figure.
Yeah.
The good life is found when you have people, when you have family that
Peace.
you love.
Love, family, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Making a difference.
what does the day-to-day look like for you as we kind of look to wrap it up? I know we're losing daylight. The sun's going down slowly.
Dude,
but yeah, what does the day-to-day look like?
So day-to-day, I am my son's booking agent he is a speaker. He speaks to high schools on the dangers of distracted driving on behalf of the Tennessee Highway Safety Office.
Okay.
They contacted me a few years after the crash, heard about his story, and thought it would be impactful and effective at reaching high school students. So they're not the driver or that hurt him, or they're not, the person as a passenger. And that's been great. He's been doing it now. He's spoken to over 50,000 high school students around the state.
Wow.
In the last 6-8 years. And so I contact schools and I do that. And that's a ongoing, takes a few hours every week, sometimes longer when we get into crunch time. So I enjoy doing that. I enjoy traveling. I picked up sailing as a hobby.
Yeah.
I love taking people out.
That was
It was a
so
blast.
fun. Yesterday,
taking you out.
That was a great time. I'm glad it worked out.
I'm so glad it worked out. I try to go once a week on that, take the boat out. And so I enjoy that. Very involved in our Mercy Commons church here in California and a church back in Knoxville. I have a big family, so I enjoy getting together with them. I'm especially close with my brother Paul. And so enjoy hang time with him. My brother Joe's in Spain. Love to visit him in Spain when we get a chance to go over there. And I invested in a couple small startups, and they petered out. So I'm not a good investor in startups. But so that's not. But I remember when I sold the company, I said, I'm going to do what people did for me. I'm going to set aside a little bit of money and find some startups and invest in those, and those were kind of didn't work out. Okay. Let's just say all good intentions, but for a lot of reasons they didn't work out.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, I don't know. I spend a lot of time with grandkids. I've got some hobbies that I love with the grandkids. I've got a device where I can record, basically manage a playlist of MP3 files, and they have these little characters they put on this device, and it'll download those playlists. They can hear me tell them bedtime stories.
Wow, yeah. That's so special.
I can write songs for them and things like that. But
do you dabble in music?
Yeah,
do you write
I dabble,
music
but
and stuff?
It's terrible. David tries to fix things for me, and but it's a hopeless cause. So I'll forever be the amateur, guy. So and now it's more about being the quirky and the silly grandpa songs kind of thing. So
yeah, that's great. I love how much family is such a big part of your life.
Yeah.
Like when you sold your company, you decided, I'm going to invest in my family. I'm going to be there with them. Has that translated to the grind mentality, like that you had to show up every day and you had to grind every day? Like do you feel like a lot of that's gone away since you've sold, or?
Yeah, so again, it's kind of weird. If you think of my company in 3 phases, 3 seasons, that first season, when you say grind and you had to, that's where I was for that season 1. But by season 3, when pre-COVID, when things were going great, we were building a 3rd generation, I was a coach on the sidelines. I wasn't in a grind.
Yeah,
we were having a chef make our lunches on Friday. And, I was just showing up, hugging people, and how are your kids? And I really wasn't in meetings saying, what should we do? How are we gonna? There was no. The sky was blue, and we were winning against the other company. We were winning 5-1 on with our new product. It was doing well.
Yeah.
So I think the graduating out of the grind happened in season 3.
Wow.
And then David's crash gave me this whole perspective.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That had to. Yeah.
You can cut me off in traffic, and man, 10, 20 years ago, how do you think you are? And I'll try to, but. Man, now cut me off. I'm just chill. It doesn't bother me like it used to. Yeah. Things like that. So I think that's the perspective that David's crash gave me. That it's like, man, there's way more important things in life than if you're in a hurry, go.
Man, that's so inspiring. I want to be that kind of man. Yeah. I think I show up every day and I'm like, let's get after it. Let's do it. Let's do it with passion. Let's do it. Let's grind. And I think I want to be able to balance that with like just being able to be present and show up. And I think I am. I'm obviously growing into that, but I want to be able to lay that grind mentality down when it's time to lay it down.
I think that's key, though. You know, you got to know when there is a season to grind, and if you caught me in that season, you'd be like, "How do you live with so little sleep?" You know, and I don't know. I just do. I got to do what I got to do. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So when somebody thinks, as we wrap up, when someone thinks of John, what do you want people to say? What do you want people to say when they think of John? Like, what are the things you're trying to build? What are the qualities that you want to be known for when they think of John?
Oof, wow. That's one, you know, you want to have the perfect answer for. The gut answer is he cared, you know, he wanted to make a difference. He wanted to have an impact. He loved his family well. He stewarded his time and resources well. He wasn't perfect, but he was present, and he was teachable, and I think those are key things. He loved people, loved God, and lived his life with energy and passion.
Yeah, that's great. So before we go, is there anything you want to leave with our audience? What advice would you give to our audience? Is there any advice that you'd give to me? Any last things that you want to say?
That's really nice.
Or ways we can support anything that you're doing?
Congratulations to you. This is so bizarre. That's how we met. And
it is.
And I love what you're doing. I hope and pray for much success. And I think it's great to want to bring in people to tell their stories, because stories and perspective is so important. That helped us get through David's crash. It helped me get through rough times in the business. Having a perspective, what's important, and it helps you refocus, calm down a little bit, and then suddenly you'll get the idea that maybe this path will work. So I don't have any great last words of wisdom other than
that was a great word of wisdom. Perspective. That's
okay.
Massive,
Take elements of my story and do with it what you will. But my number one advice for everyone right now is to go follow David Francisco on Spotify. Listen to this kid's music.
No. That's right. No, that's great. No, I love it. No, we'll definitely put his stuff in the
story. If there's something there to help people. I hope it will help you. But
we'll put his stuff in the description for sure.
That'd be great.
And I'll tell people to hear his story. Is his story on any platforms where you can hear just his
there's a YouTube video if you Google and I can send you the link for the story as well.
We'll put that in the description.
Back to Blackbird. So if you Google on YouTube, you put in Back to Blackbird, David Francisco. It's got a documentary about those first few months. It doesn't have his whole story with his wife and all the great things that have happened since and the speaking, but it's got the beginning of what happened and that kind of thing. So
that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for this interview. I have really enjoyed this. Well, there you go. There's the first episode of the podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please consider liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channels that I'm on. I'm very active on YouTube, on Substack, and then on Instagram and on X. So there is an option, if you are really helped by these videos, to do a paid subscription on Substack. You can either do that monthly or you can do that annually. Thank you for the people who are already doing that. It is so helpful. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for subscribing to my channels. And I want to inspire us to faithfully push back darkness and establish light in this cultural moment for this generation. So by you doing the paid subscription, it helps me get closer to a place where I can do this full time for you guys. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart. And I'll see you guys in the next one.